So we have November 2024, paper 1, variant 2, and this is the insert. So that's what we're doing this class and the next. Hopefully we're able to wrap it up in 2 classes. So text A with regards to the comprehension, questions 1 and 2, is titled The Puma. Now I'd ask you to read the whole thing, but the strategy that we used the last time, let's try to do that again. And so question 1 goes up to right paragraph 5, it says over here, and then question 2 starts from line 47. So let's see where that is. So paragraph 5 is actually not that far ahead, right? If you take a look at the right text, so line 47 is, this is a long piece of text, relatively long. So line 47 is up till somewhere in paragraph 9. So I think it would be safer to read up to and including paragraph 9. Let's do that. So here's the text. Let me zoom in a bit. And so the introduction says, Laura is backpacking in South America for 3 months and has volunteered to work in an animal sanctuary. The sanctuary rescues monkeys, birds, and wild cats such as pumas and jaguars and brings them back to health. So we can see paragraph 1 to 5 on screen. So let's just get through that quickly and then I'll scroll further. Right, so moving on to the next part. Let's just go through that and then we can take a look at paragraph 9. And here's paragraph 9. Okay. So, alright, before we move to the questions, this part over here, I'm just like asking you on my own. Alright, she's thinking about walking the pumas and then she whispers a question to Mila, who doesn't answer at first, and then she finally says maybe, but we each have to decide whether we think these animals are worth it. What's the question do you think that she's asked? Judging by, you know, I'd probably feel more sad if there wasn't a huge question and then taking a look at the response. What question did you think she asked? Well, does it, like, asking, you're saying, why can't the animals be released into the wild? So does that match with the response that's given? Right, but we each have to decide whether we think these animals are worth it. Does your question match with the answer? Again, I haven't, like, I don't remember the questions in the text, right? I'm just asking this one on my own. So if you like, right, I think that it's about the dangers involved because we are talking about wild cats, right? So she would have felt sadder for the cats that they can't be released back into the wild if she wasn't concerned about the danger of dealing with these cats. And to that, Mila responds, do you think it's worth it? Right? Taking on the danger, is it worth it for the cats? That's my take. And of course, right, that's not given over here. It doesn't need to be correct, but I feel that perhaps is the question. Okay, now let's move to the actual questions. So going back to the beginning of the text, here we are with question 1. And question 1A, in paragraph 1, what evidence is there that Laura knew very little about wildcats before she arrived at the sanctuary? So evidence that she knew very little about wildcats before she arrived at the sanctuary, 1 mark, you need 1 point, and this is, right, obviously an explicit meaning question. It should come very quickly. Yeah, so obviously the line that says, I don't even know what a puma looks like. So you can say that. You can either quote that line, or you can say that she doesn't even know what a puma looks like. Or you could say she says she doesn't know what a puma looks like. But for what a puma looks like is the important part. So you have your 1 mark there. Okay. Next question. Using your own words, explain what Laura means uh, when she describes the bus journey as as rumbling along in a rickety bus. Now, for this, you need to identify the keywords. What are the keywords? Right, it's 2 marks. You've got 2 keywords to identify. Just zoom in. Anyone? I mean, shouldn't be difficult. You guys should be able to figure this out fairly quickly by now. All right, so the keywords we're looking for is rumbling and rickety. Right? So, Amariza, you're saying that the journey was bumpy and the bus was not well maintained. Yeah. So the bus was not well maintained. That works. It was in bad condition or something. The journey was bumpy. So the journey means in the bus along the road that combines both of those aspects. That works, I guess. Dua, you're saying the road was not smooth, or the road is rocky, or just for rumbling. So all right, so you only given your response for one of the two, for rumbling. For rickety, okay, now you're saying the bus was producing an unpleasant sound, which means the bus was not in good condition. Okay, that works. That will get you your mark. The road was not smooth, so I guess that works as well. Afin, you've taken the very direct approach. You've just given the synonyms, contextual synonyms. So rumbling means thunderous. They haven't given that specific word, but they have mentioned making a noise and loud. So, right, thunderous would work. assuming they accept it. Again, right, in these cases, I say it works, but it really is up to the examiner, as I've mentioned time and again. And for rickety, you mentioned shaky, which is, they've given shaky for that one, so yes. Okay, good. Let's move on to question C, which is again for 2 marks. From paragraph 2, identify 2 reasons. So you're going to identify, so it's an explicit meaning question. Identify 2 reasons why it is difficult for Laura to see through the bus window. From paragraph 2, 2 reasons why it's difficult to see through the bus window. In paragraph, I'll zoom in over here as well. In paragraph 2. Yeah, have you picked it out? The windows were grimy. Okay. Come on, other two. Window was grimy. There's a single M, not double M. And right, it was covered in condensation. So streaks of condensation to be particular, but yes, condensation. So yes, those are the 2 points you would pick up and you'd get your 2 marks. Good. This is the paper one of my students attempted last year. Was it last year? Like 2024, so yeah. Then, and Alhamdulillah, he got an A star back then. Right? I think this is, I think the first or second time actually going through this. Okay. Explain what Laura is thinking when she asks the bus driver seriously. So obviously an implicit meaning question from line 7. What she's thinking when she asks the bus driver seriously. So going to the text for context. Here. Right, Amaza, you're given 2 possible answers. We need only one. Like if this is how you would respond in an exam, you risk losing your marks because the examiner is not going to cater for either or responses. If it's 1 mark, they expect only one answer, right? The answer you're sure of. So which of the 2 that you've suggested are you sure about? Right, Dua, you're saying that she was unsure whether the driver had dropped her at the correct place, not on the correct place. Amiza, you're saying that she did not expect the driver would leave her alone. Okay. Afin, waiting for your response. She was not expecting to be dropped off alone. Okay, so the suggested answers are that right, basically they're looking for disbelief or surprise or confusion or maybe a bit of fear regarding her situation. So what they suggested is that this is not what she expected, right? And in brackets they're giving to find at a destination. So she thought maybe it would be like a proper bus stop or something, but it was in the middle of the jungle. She cannot. So this is not something she expected. She cannot believe it, or she is unsure if this is the right place, or she thinks the driver is joking. Another suggested answer is you could is that she can't believe she is going to be alone on an empty road. So given what the mark scheme is suggesting, uh, Dua, your answer works. Amarza, yours probably as well, and Afin, yes, right. So they are there being alone and being dropped off in that location, right? These answers should work. Right. So next question. We are making good progress. In paragraph 3, how does Laura feel about being in the jungle when she first arrives? So give two details from the text to support your answer in paragraph 3. So you have to focus on paragraph 3 only. You figure out the feeling that's implicit and the details are obviously explicit. So let's go here in paragraph 3. I take a read and then punch in your answers when you have them. Okay, so we have a response from Amariza. You're saying the feeling is lost. She's feeling lost. And the examples would be that the jungle hum speaking no language I've heard before, and the jungle is everywhere. Okay. Afin, you are giving two feelings, lost and confused. Now, again, right, you don't want to risk your marks over this. So which one would you go for if I ask you to pick only one? Right? Lost or confused? Which one? Lost. Okay, right. And so which parts of the text would you choose to support that feeling? Dua, your response only has one detail. If you could add another. Okay, so Afin, your details are speaking no language I've heard before and the jungle was everywhere, right? Dua, waiting on you. Okay, so the feeling you suggested, Dua, is that she was feeling annoyed, and the texts you've taken are different from the other two. She was waving her hands around wildly, her arms around wildly. So that's one of them. And the other is that she struggled to breathe. Now, in this case, right, so for Amariza and Dua, your feeling and details both are correct, and so you get 3 marks, right? Because that's how much this is worth. Dua, in your case, you're going to get only 1 mark, and the reason for that is both the details that you've given are correct, but your feeling is incorrect because they've clearly stated in the mark scheme that annoyed is not a feeling that they're looking for. Right? She's feeling panicky, she's feeling frightened, like, link it with the seriously earlier. So she couldn't believe the situation she was in. She was uncomfortable, lost, panicky, frightened, not so much annoyed, right? She was in a very different situation. And so when you're in a different situation like that, you're not annoyed, you are, right, anxious, right? So maybe if you wrote anxious, even though it's not a suggested response, that could have worked. And then you plug in these right texts. So why are you getting 1 mark and not 2? Because you're giving 2 details, and that's because the mark scheme is clearly saying award 1 mark max if 1 or 2 details are correct, but the feeling is incorrect, or if the feeling is not given at all, right? So you can score partially from this question, right? I do believe earlier on, if the feeling and the supporting texts were not aligned, I think like was it for this question or was it for the other one? Was it for question H? No, not H. It was from question 2E. So the example and the explanation. Anyway, so I forget which question that was from. So if the feeling is correct and the details don't match, then right, you only get 1 mark for the feeling. In this case, if the details are correct and the feeling doesn't match, or if it's not given at all, then you only get 1 mark. You get 2 marks. So right, in this case, you're getting 1 mark. Right, and that's how they do it. Okay. Identify 2 things the monkey does to make Laura think that he is challenging. So 2 things, right? Identify question. So it's explicit. Line 15. That's over here. Right? And so that's from paragraph 4. Read this, get those 2 points, let me know. Have you guys found it? Right, so all 3 of you have given the same responses. The monkey sitting on a sign that says no monkeys, and he's staring at it. Right, which are the only 2 options for this response, and they're both correct, so you all get 2 marks. Good. All right, let's scroll to question G. In paragraph 5, when a huge black boar suddenly appears, Laura notices something surprising about it. What is surprising about the boar? And then why does the boar run away from the man? So that's part 1 and part 2. So what's surprising about the boar and why does it run away from the man? Paragraph 5 over here. Right. So have you found the answer to the first part? What is surprising about the boar? Right, Dua, what's surprising about the boar? Okay, so right, the obvious answer is that it had a red sock in its mouth, or clasped between its teeth. That's the obvious answer which you guys have picked. And right, Dua, the part that you're saying that appeared from the undergrowth, that's not suggested. And it's not like, unique or special about the boar appearing from the undergrowth. So I won't go with that part. There's another one that what's the word they've used? Surprising. So the surprising thing about the boar is it has a name, right? So it's called Rita. Right, now that one's not as obvious, so we can stick to the red sock part. Now, why did it run away from the man? Amarza, I believe you already answered this one. Right, so Afin and Dua, why did it run away? Okay, Dua. We have Afin and Amarza's response. So this answer can have two different takes on it. Okay, so right, Amarza, you said that the man was chasing it, which is a suggested response, so you get that mark. Afin, you are unsure. You're saying she had stolen the man's socks. So that is somewhere in between the suggested answer. So it's gray for me, right? It's a gray area, and I'd say maybe that would work. Why? Because one take on the answer is that she had stolen or taken or wants to keep the sock. So because it does say she had stolen the sock, I guess you get your mark. I like so. Right, that moves me from gray to white, and so I'd give you that mark. Uh, Dua, she had the sock as a prize which belonged to the man. Now, over here again, unfortunately, the marking scheme clearly says that mentioning she got the prize or the sock will not be awarded. So what you want to say is she wanted to keep the sock, right? Instead of she had the sock because she had the sock in the last part, right? So saying that she had the sock is sort of repeating what you said in part one. And you generally don't have repeat answers in Cambridge, right? It does happen rarely, but yeah. So saying that she had the sock is similar to your response in part one, and so she wanted to keep the sock, or that she was being chased by the man, or the man wanted the sock back, right? Or something like that. Okay, let's wrap this up with the final question of the final sub question of question one. Explain using your own words Laura's different feelings about working at an animal sanctuary in South America. Give three details from anywhere in the text to support your answer. So this question is the one where you give three feelings and three details to support those feelings. So let me just zoom out. I don't know if this is readable for you guys. Right, I only got from paragraph 1 to 8 over here. So I'll give you a few minutes to work through this and write three feelings and three supporting texts, for, like one for each feeling, as you know. All right, so go ahead, find the responses and let me know. So there are parts of the text that can be used as evidence, which are not displayed on screen right now, right? So the rest of the text over here. And so from that, we learn further for solving this question when it says from anywhere in the text, that means from anywhere in the text. So you're not going to limit yourself to up till paragraph 9, which we read. Right, we had this, we did the same thing for the variant one as well, the world's oldest film. So we went to the end of the text And so similarly over here, you can even read this part. I can't display the whole thing in one go, unfortunately. And so for this particular question, when you get this question in your exam, obviously the text is going to be different, the question is going to be different. But when it says any from the text, you go all the way to the end. If you're unable to find something that's working from the part that you've read to answer question one of the comprehension, you can very well go ahead and read the second part. And so, right, that means that I guess overall, I was trying a new approach, but overall it is useful perhaps to read the whole text before attempting the comprehension, or you can do it this way. You can read only, up till the relevant part for question one. For the last question, right, which is part 8, then if you're unable to find something that works in the excerpt that you've read, then you can go beyond and try to find something else. If it works, it will be acceptable. So I've put paragraph 1 to 8 on screen again. You should be able to find possible answers from here, but again, there's more that can be taken from beyond paragraph 8. Dua, I've read your responses, and one thing I want to highlight, right, is your responses would work, but they don't. And I'll tell you why, right? So you can go back and try again. And the reason for that is you take a look at the question, explain using your own words Laura's different feelings about working at an animal sanctuary, right? So that should be the focus. So the responses given the mark scheme are focusing on those points about working at an animal sanctuary, and the responses that you've given are from elsewhere in the text, right? So they do work on their own. So maybe again, right, the issue is, I don't know, if you work with that and the rest, right, we don't have a lot of time, so you guys can, I'll just give you like a minute or so. You can look at this part of the text and see if you figure something else out. And then what I'll do is I'll show you what the mark scheme is suggesting. So whatever answer you have, whether it was right or wrong, right? You won't be able to discuss it, but you know for yourself whether your approach was working or not. All right, so I'm moving towards responses because we only have 5 minutes for Google Meet left. So Afin is saying that she's anxious, she's struggling to breathe, she is oblivious. I don't know anything about this place and she's unsure about working there. She's worried that might change my mind. She's right. So I think those 3 work. Dua, you have not come up with an alternate response. You're still working on it. I hope you understand, right, the approach that you need to make for this. And right, Amarza, I hope you're working on it too. So let me just share with you. No idea. That's convenient, not really. So that's on screen for you. Let me change the tab in recording. There you go. And so, see, Dua, it says over here, focus should be on working at the sanctuary. Do not accept textual details about the bus journey, the jungle, the mosquitoes, or coming across a monkey, and the boat, which is all of what you did, unfortunately. Sorry, right? So it's a learning experience, right? You don't need to feel down about it, like, oh, I missed. Like, we're here to learn, right? That's the whole point. And they've got some other suggestions over here, so you can read that. You obviously have access to the mark scheme. Now, she feels inexperienced, confused, clueless, useless. We've got all of this. I mean, again, I'm rushing through this because the class is about to end. It's not something I can stop from happening. Right, she feels out of a comfort zone. So I don't know anything about this place, and I believe Dua, you mentioned this. So she's oblivious. So lost, oblivious would work. You also suggested struggling to breathe, so anxious. Let's see if that comes up somewhere. So foolish or regret, right? Unconfident, self-doubt, I'm not sure if that's the person she wants. I might change my mind. So you did mention that. And unsure, so right, unconfident, that works. Uh, Hopeful, she wants to change, so transformation and looking at different perspective, gaining perspectives. Excited, right? Scared. So I believe the struggling to breathe part you got was from when she got off the bus, and so in that, like, it won't work, and so you'll only get 2 marks, Afin, right? So as they mentioned, right, it's not about the jungle, it's about working at the sanctuary. And yeah, so scared, all of this, and then the fear. Okay, now this is not saying that she's afraid, but it's saying that the fear or the tension has gone, or a sense of she feels a sense of change, or she's feeling confident, right? And that particular text. So again, a lot to choose from. This text was slightly different from what we've encountered in the previous ones. This is more like a journal. It's right. There's a lot of conversation in this one, uh, comparative to the other ones. Anyway, right. So I hope that helped. We'll come back tomorrow and deal with question 2 inshallah. All right. See you then. Allah Hafiz.